So, on your quest to becoming a lapel guard master, you will find yourself, unfortunately, sometimes without a lapel in your hand, whether you just lost the grip or they just hid it from you. And it's very important that you know how to recover your guard and make sure that you don't just immediately get past the second you lose a lapel and you're just forced to play in more conventional guards. So there's a few little tricks that I've developed over the years to help me in situations where I lost the lapel and I'm forced to play an open guard without any grips, or I'm forced to take some sort of grip, whatever is within reach, and use that to fight my way back to a lapel grip. This is just part of becoming a well-rounded grappler. There's a lot of details in here that can help anyone, but it especially helps people who are trying to learn the lapel guard because it's going to make you comfortable in all positions, and you're not ever going to find yourself floundering completely to the point that you feel like if you don't have a lapel, you can't play guard. So for those of you that actually, there are a lot of people that message me saying that worm guard and lapel guards have helped them a lot because their guard sucks so bad. But having a lapel grip and having the technique and the knowledge of the lapel has helped them so much to actually have a guard now. So for those people, I'm going to show you some more techniques to help your guard recoveries a little bit and just make you a little more comfortable on your back while you have a spastic, crazy Slovenian trying to pass your guard. Okay, so the first one, this is actually a super cool move that I purposely don't do because it can be dangerous. So this is more like a bonus. I don't suggest using this often. This is the spider guard upside down kill technique. It has the potential to possibly hurt someone. So the main technique is perfectly safe. It's when you go full upside down spider kill move that you could injure someone. So be very careful with this, and I'm going to show you it, and don't do it at home. Do not try this at home. This is purely experimental for the streets.
Especially don't get your wife, put a gi on her, and tell her to try this right away.
Yes, this is a dangerous move. I'm going to show you the non-dangerous version first, and I'm going to show you how the dangerous version could protect you in a mugging situation. Okay? So, there's a unique movement that you may have never even seen before in jiu-jitsu. It's very rare for this instance to occur. It's like a rupture in space-time. It flits in and out of existence, okay? It's very rare. So say I lost a lapel or I wasn't able to get a lapel. Sometimes, for people who have really bad guards, you have to resort to trickery and some sort of violence, in some cases, to maintain your guard. How I'm going to do that is what's called an upside-down spider grip. And what I do is with a cross grip first. So I immediately get a cross grip on the sleeve. I know it's not a lapel, but pretend it is. I'm getting the lapel. I'm going to use what looks like the underfoot movement, the underfoot off balance movement, but instead of my left foot, the foot nearest to him, I'm actually going to use the top foot here, like this. You see this here? Now, what's unique about this upside down spider grip is normal spider guard breaks don't work against it. So if he tries to weave his hand underneath, look at that, it does not work. We talked about this earlier when we were talking about gripping systems and gripping breaks on why conventional guards are shut down a little easier than lapel guards. It's because of these grip breaks. So I have this position here, the upside down spider, that actually counters this grip break. And so it makes it a usable substitute for a lapel because it's such a difficult grip to break. Now, from here, we have a lot of options. But for the most part, I just want to show you how it's a recovery movement. So say I lost the lapel. There's one thing you always need to realize. So if your hands are off of me and I lost the lapel, I need to grip something. One thing you can count on is he is not going to pass my guard without touching me with his hands. He's not just going to be able to step around my guard. So you can always count on the offensive person who's on top of you to touch one of your legs. In the moment that he touches one of your legs, you have a free chance to get a grip. This is very important because of the issue of trying to get grips while he is being defensive. If I'm trying to get the grip first, he can hide his grips and block them. The only grip I can get without him blocking it is the lapel, which is why we want the lapel. The second best option is this sleeve grip. So as he reaches, I reach as well. So he would normally expect me to go into some sort of 2-on-1 motion maybe grab the pants to a De La Hiva. All of these are attacks that he will be aware of and understand how to pass them if you're against a competent opponent. One technique he will not be aware of, I can almost guarantee, is the upside down spider kill move. like this. I put him into the upside down spider for 2 reasons. One, I have awesome off balances from here that function along the exact same parameters as the lapel off balances. I just extend and look for underhooks and X guards. The other thing that's really nice about it is when I get to the upside down spider kill move, oh, look at this. I've got a lapel right here. I can grip the lapel and re-engage into any of the intermediary positions, whether it be a lasso, an underfoot position, an underfoot off balance, or the spider kick, right? So this spider inversion kill technique is very good transitionally to help you return to your lapel guards, which hopefully by the end of this, well, definitely by the end of this instructional, you will be very well versed in. So looking for that opportunity to get that spider, upside down spider hook is really good. Now one thing, a little detail that will help you is when you're still in this position where you first grab the initial sleeve, and I try and put my foot underneath, it can be difficult to get a strong rotation because I don't have any pendulum motions like with the lapel to help me spin underneath. So what you do is you bring your foot underneath his elbow, and I'm trying to put upward pressure. At the same time, I bring my other foot hooking around his shoulder like an X guard on his arm. Hooking around his shoulder like an X guard on his arm helps me invert. It gives me a little bit of control over my hips so I can actually spin underneath to get to the leverage position. And again, it's very hard for him to break this grip. He can try and weave underneath, but it doesn't actually work just because of the nature of the move. He can try and weave to the outside this way, but that's not going to work either just because I can lock it over my arm, very similar to the spider lapel grip. We talked about that looping over in front of your shin really locks it in place. Same thing applies to this position, the upside down spider. If he stands up too straight, I'm in between his legs and I can go into my X guards and my crab rides, which we're familiar with because we already did these from the lapel. So that is the functional movement of the spider guard kill technique. The kill technique part, which may or may not be cut from the video, is... So this recovery movement that I'm about to show you, you probably have seen or even have done instinctually. It's very common. It's one of the most important recovery movements there is in jiu-jitsu. But I think I'm going to be able to add some insight that maybe you haven't thought about or some ways to use it a little more effectively and potentially be less predictable with it. Because even though it is one of the most effective recovery movements, it's also super predictable, and it's one of the most effective ways to pass someone's guard is knowing when they're going to do this movement and then countering it with blocking it or pinning it in some way. So this is just the movement of passing your leg in front of someone's face as they're trying to pass your guard. So say I lost all my grips and Miha tries to do a knee cut here. He knee cuts like this. I would push and throw my leg in front of him. Okay? That is the basic movement. But if I don't do that, all I'm doing is pushing and the knee cut's going to work perfectly and he's going to pass my guard. So in a lot of situations, it's one of your only options. So as he goes to knee cut on me, here, I push away and I swing my leg up and over to block him here. Now, what most people do from this situation is they free their arms again, push, and then try and shrimp to face him this way. And then do the same thing if he continues trying to pass to the other side. So let's say you knee cut me, I recover, and then just do like a Toreando back to the other side. So I push, he plants, and then tries to pass again, and I have to do it again, and I have to do it again, until eventually either I get grips and recover, or he passes my guard. So one thing you want to try and avoid is doing that too many times, because if that is your only option, as you fall into this rhythm of leg weaving and recovering, as he continues to do every pass in the world against you, your movement is incredibly repetitive and expected. And usually the person on top is going to get the better of you. So in this situation in particular, a knee cut, which is usually done from no grips in a lot of situations, people can just dive into a knee cut. So it's one of the most common guard pass attempts. I'm going to show you just a couple details to help you only have to throw your leg once, so you don't have to do it over and over again. The first one is once I throw my leg, I want to get a sleeve control as quickly as possible. Getting the sleeve control is going to help me do what's called a cross step. We talked a little bit about this in the gripping section earlier. Putting a cross step, I've done my leg recovery motion, but now as he tries to go to the next proper step of stepping around, I can extend my leg, put my other foot into the position, and then recover my guard without having to fall into the patty cake of the guard passing movements, okay? So again, he's pressuring in. I immediately post and throw my leg in front. As I throw my leg in front, my hands go to the sleeve. You can go double up on it or just one. I extend as he tries to move to the next position. As he continues to pass, go ahead and go anywhere you want. I put both feet in. So I have a double spider hook. I'll free my left arm to help me create space to push his weight off of me and extend away until I can get my other leg. Once I'm facing him with my hips square, I would get my grips to go back to guard, hopefully with a lapel in this situation. Now I've recovered. This can be done with the lapel as well. As he, go ahead and knee cut me again. This time as he knee cuts, I have the lapel still. I throw my leg and I put my foot in the lapel. I'm kicking away. As he continues to try and pass to the opposite side, I extend my foot and go into intermediary lapel positions to continue the attack. Okay? One other thing that can help you in this situation is incorporating your bottom leg as well. When he passes, a lot of people focus intently on the top leg but leave their bottom leg dead. If you extend and do the same thing, bring your other foot up to meet your left leg and nestle it in his hip here, this can help you a ton. Because now, say he double unders on my ankle and grabs my collar to this ankle, it's like I'm here, like this. If people can get to this position and potentially stretch me out and eventually duck his head through like this, if I put this other leg in the way, that's an extra layer of attack that he now has to deal with that foot to pass my guard. He would have to let go of my collars and push it out to continue the pass. So being aware of that, as he passes, I go here, I throw my other leg into the position. Say he continues to bully through my guard. He gets underneath my leg with pressure, keep driving. Now, as he goes to reach for my other leg, I have an opportunity to extend, get my grips, and recover. Okay? So that's an effective way to use I don't even know what this is called, but throwing your leg in front of someone's face is a recovery movement. Try not to fall into left, right, because the guy on top is going to beat you because he has lateral movement and you don't, and you're just doing the same thing with no grips, pushing. So try not to fall into that, where you're just treading water to survive.
Yeah, and for sure there's going to be someone watching this saying, I'm not flexible enough to do this. There's a website out there, yogaforbj.net.
If you need flexibility. And not only that, this is a guard movement that is favored by more flexible guys, because the more flexible you are, the further the guy can be into the pass, smashing you, and you can still get your leg in front. The next technique I'm going to show you is for the non-flexible guys, which is the opposite movement, but recovers your guard in the same way against the same passes. This next movement is going to be catered to people who don't have the flexibility to throw their legs up and over. So I'm trying to include things for all body types, all shapes and sizes. This is actually a movement that you don't really see very many people do at all in jiu-jitsu as a recovery, and it's very powerful and can allow you to maintain guard without having to resort to like half guard or deep half. Whereas a lot of positions, if you don't use this, that would be your only option, is to retreat into like getting smash halved or going into deep half or potentially turtling. So this also is a movement that I have not come up with a name for, but it is opposite to the overhead leg recovery movement. This would be the underhead, or in this case, underarm leg recovery movement. And just a quick example for your mind is if, let's say Miha is doing a, we can do a knee cut again. Let's say he's knee cutting here. So there's two ways I can recover. Going over like we did, but there's also an opportunity to go under this way. This is an under leg recovery movement where you're bringing your knee through and across his body and extending away to recover your movement. This can also be done from if he pins like a Toreando motion where he's pinning both legs here. I could try and bring my leg up and over, but then we fall into the patty cake scenario where he goes back this way and I have to go here. However, if he pins my legs and starts to pass to one side, go ahead and continue the pass. In this situation, I can't bring my leg over because he's blocked it. Let's turn this way a little so they can see. So here is a perfect example. If I continue to try and drive here, he's just going to push into it, and he's fighting against the weak part of my leg, which is my inner hip flexor here. So I'm trying to move in, but I can't. So in this situation, I actually have to bring my knee underneath and in front to reach the same goal, which would be our cross step here. So sometimes it's better to not throw the leg over the top and actually to bring the knee down here, which a lot of times people want to put your leg already, but instead of this, I bring it through now, where I actually have a lot of strength. In this motion right here, I don't have a lot of strength because I'm trying to pull my leg up against his weight. But if I turn it sideways and pull it up, you actually can have a lot of power here, and then go to your cross step and recover to a guard like this. Okay. Another position where this might happen is from the leg weave position, like this here. Obviously, in a leg weave situation, I can't really bring my leg out and come in front. You may be able to get to close guard like that, but you won't actually be able to recover. So if someone's smashing your guard in this way, we would usually want to address grips first and then bring my knee through in the motion to the cross step. Now, I like to link all of these things to the cross step because so much of lapel guard is about creating space and forcing your opponent's body to go into more of like a starfish configuration so that you have motion and space to move around him to set up your lapel guards. So here, it would be the same thing. Even if he has the collar, we would create space by breaking the collar grip. Then posting on the shoulder or a collar or even his head to create space, bringing my leg up to my chest because that is its only route of freedom. If I push into him, he's just going to push back into me and continue moving around. So I actually pull it to me, and then I'll cross steps and recover back to my position. And just because I put my foot into a spider guard position doesn't mean you have to do spider guard every time. When you recover, you can cross step into other positions, such as single leg X, or lasso, or even 50-50 to here. Whatever you feel comfortable with. So don't feel like I'm saying only do spider guard. I'm just using that as an example because it's a little more natural for me to do it. But cross-stepping applies to all positions because it's not a flexibility required motion. I could see how people wouldn't want to play spider guard in some situations because it does require some hip mobility, but a cross-step really doesn't require anything other than just extending your leg and pulling. And then, depending on what you want to do, you can go to any other guard that you want, even half guard if you're a half guard master like me. So yes, that is the underleg recovery motion. You shouldn't use one or the other. You need to use both depending on the situation. If I go to knee cut and then, or if he goes to knee cut on me and I try and throw my leg in front here and he blocks it or keeps his head in front of it so I can't do it, I would have to come underneath. It's my only option because he blocked it. And then from there, I could create my space or go to my cross step to recover. So that's the other guard recovery movement that can help a lot to make you a little more comfortable on your back. Of course, jiu-jitsu being the ever-expanding universe that it is, you're not always going to fall into one of these exact situations. And sometimes, some situations, he'll be putting pressure on you, and you may not be able to free your legs to have any sort of leg movement at all. So there are some upper body tricks that can help you maintain your guard and help yourself from not getting squished underneath someone. Because the worst place for you to be, especially if you're trying to be aggressive with your guard in general, not just open guard, but any guard, is you can't let them eliminate space. There always has to be some sort of space, even if you're playing a tight guard like half guard. If his chest is on my chest, with his shoulder in my face, he's going to have the advantage always. So there's a trick that I like to do that involves the lapel that can keep someone at bay, even if you're in a half guard situation. It can make them think twice about putting too much pressure on you. At the same time, it allows you to keep the lapel for you to set up lapel guards from there. And the way you do it is here. So say we end up in a knee shield position. Probably the most common place you'll find yourself in when someone breaks past your initial open guards, okay? For any of you that have seen the layers of guard concept, this will make a lot of sense. But for those of you that haven't, think of it as like the open guards is like one layer. Once he breaks past that, now he has to break past my more nearer guards layer, such as half guard, deep half, knee shield, things like that. Once he gets past that, then that's a whole different story. So there's something called a frame in jiu-jitsu. A frame is something that I build against him to keep his pressure off of me. I don't want him to be able to close the distance, so I need to frame. Usually I put my frame into a place that's vulnerable, like his neck, so that the more pressure he puts into me, the more uncomfortable he is. You could put a frame in a place that isn't vulnerable, but then you're holding a lot more of his weight and it's not as efficient with your motion. You may be able to keep the frame still, but he's not going to be uncomfortable. So most of the time frames involve putting it on his neck or on his face or in a place where as he puts more pressure, it becomes more and more uncomfortable for him. So you can keep him off of you a little more effectively. One thing that I like to do is incorporate a lapel like this. Now, let's do it on my good side actually. Because like I said, I only do my moves to one side or the other. So I'm here and I have one of his open lapels. I want to have my frame like this, but I also want to grip on the lapel. So the unique thing about the lapel is that most of my grips can be done with a lapel in hand. I could have a lapel in my hand and have a sleeve grip. I could have a lapel in my hand and have a collar grip. Same side collar, over the back. Anything can be done with the lapel grip in your hand still. And that can be valuable if you spend a lot of time cultivating your lapel game, so you never find yourself without your lucky lapel, right? So I like to hang on to this. Now, sometimes it's not super efficient for you to just grip a collar when you have the lapel, because if you have the lapel, you might as well be doing something with it. But there are situations where you may find yourself needing to grab the collar, and in that case, you can do this. However, what we're talking about is something called the worm hat choke, okay? And it's just the threat of the worm hat choke that can keep people at bay and allow you to have a free arm without having to commit fully to a frame. So by putting this lapel across his body here like this, if he puts too much pressure on me, I can wrap this lapel around his neck. What this is doing is it's just creating a super strong pressure just against one side of his neck, okay? Now, there's many ways to finish the choke itself, which we'll get into later. But for now, just having this here and threatening it with a squeeze is more than enough to make people think twice about continuing to put pressure. For him to do anything to escape the loop of the choke, he has to relieve pressure. He has to duck his head out to the side and then unleash it. Or he has to use either one of his hands to start to dig into the way, trying to fight the grip or do anything other than pass my guard. So as long as we can distract him with this motion, even a little bit, it counts as a guard recovery motion here, like this. Just for your mind, you can finish this choke just with putting your hand on the opposite side of the artery. Go ahead and posture up a little so they can see. So this side's cut off. I could just put my hand here and start to put pressure. I would probably go palm down actually to make it a little bit tighter like this. Another thing would be to turn it more into like a Bravo choke here to finish it, or even a cross choke situation. Okay, we're going to get into that a little more in detail in the submissions aspect when we get to submissions with the lapel. But just for now, something to think about while you're playing knee shield. There's not a lot of submission opportunities already. You may be able to try and get some sort of loop choke, potentially a Kimura. We're going to cover a choke called the Flavio Canto choke, which is involving the leg and the lapel. But having an extra opportunity crossing this lapel over his neck, if someone starts to put pressure on you, can really help your guard recovery. So something for someone to think about while incorporating our under-knee movement as well, driving your knee into the neck to finish the choke or your fist. Things like this will keep someone on their toes and potentially make them want to stand up and get away from you. They may feel more in danger pressuring into you than they did just dealing with your lapel guard. So being dangerous from everywhere is very important and something you need to focus on, because you will find yourself here one day, and if you've just spent your whole life being a worm guarder, you're just going to get smashed. So be ready. A worm guarder is always ready for various chokes and strangles. So that is the cross lapel choke threatening the worm hat choke as a recovery movement. Just something to think about. Using your foot as a frame once you've already been passed. This is a very common noob trap for new lapel guard users. It's very tempting to keep your foot in the lapel even if you've already been passed and you feel like you have good leverage, like you may be able to push someone off. So just for an example, before I keep talking about it, let's say I had like a spider hook or something and he managed to get past my guard and go straight chest to chest on me. And he's passed, but I kept my foot in the lapel here like this. Maybe even both feet. I see a lot of people try to put both feet pressure like this and trying to like extend the person away. This is a complete and utter waste of time. It's very uncomfortable for the person on top, but it doesn't actually give you any really reliable escape options. He can just continue pressuring into me, putting shoulder pressure, and actually it leaves you super vulnerable to an arm bar. If you were to underhook my arm here like this, he can do a spinning arm bar. Probably one of the easiest he'll ever get, because you're just extending your own arm like this. So I roll with a lot of people who are new to the lapel, and they're trying to play lapel guard on me to see what I do. And usually once I use one of my top secret worm guard passes, which will not be included on this DVD unfortunately, they end up here and they're trying to push on my lapel, and it's just not very effective, and it wastes a lot of energy because you're pushing very hard without very much actual success or progress. So doing this is very bad. Let's just show one more time the arm bar. So this is why you don't do it, just because it's the easiest arm bar in the world, because your arm is fully extended. So you're basically like getting mounted and asking someone to arm bar you. So that's one of the main reasons not to do it. The other reason is that it's a waste of energy, and you're better off doing a traditional guard recovery or side control escape or mount escape, something of that nature. So avoid that. There is one situation where if you've been fully passed, using your foot in the lapel can be a legitimate option for escape or recovery in your guard. It's a slightly different position. It's not from side control. It's more from north-south. Luckily, you can sort of force north-south when you're on bottom, and sometimes north-south can be easier to escape than side control. Sometimes even mount can be easier to escape than side control. But in this case, it does take a little bit of flexibility, so this is more for some flexible people. If you're not as flexible, I suggest sticking to one of the more traditional escapes, which we're not going to be covering because it's not really lapel guard based, which is what this entire DVD is about. This one is still lapel guard based. I'm going to show it to you now. So it doesn't matter if you had the lapel or not when you've been passed. If I had the lapel and passed, or even if I didn't, it doesn't matter here. So there's a space here behind the collar, which in very dire circumstances may need to be utilized to escape a position. So I've used this before in competition, and it's kind of a loophole because technically it's illegal to put your foot inside someone's gi, or even your hand inside someone's gi. You're not supposed to dig inside people's gis. You can only have your thumb or your fingers, but you can't have your whole hand inside or your foot. So technically it's illegal on paper, but it's one of those things that you just get a penalty for. So it's like, do you want to get smashed in the guy's half guard or side control for the rest of the match, or do you want one penalty and potentially escape? Normally I'll take the penalty in that situation, because if I don't do anything, I might be stuck here or even submitted. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my hand inside his collar, palm up, keeping my thumb out so it's legal for the most amount of time as possible. I go inverted, more like a north-south position here, like this. He can still be putting pressure, because north-south relies on putting pressure more on the upper body rather than like low towards my legs. From here, I put both hands inside his collar, like this. And I'm going to do a bench press. So I hope you've been in the gym doing your bench presses, because you're going to need to be strong here. Depending on your weight class, you should be able to at least bench your own body weight, at least once, to do this move. Luckily, I can bench up to 4 times my own body weight, with one Miha on top of that. So I'm going to bench press. Now, he can still have his chest on mine, as long as I just get pressure to pull this gi away from his body. Ideally, I want to create a lot of space, but people are heavier than they look sometimes. So I push, and I'm going to try and move this way, down, at the same time. And then I'm going to take my foot and put it inside his gi. Now, when you do this, you can't leave it there, because the ref is going to immediately start hitting your foot, telling you not to keep your foot in the collar. But luckily, in a gym situation, no one's going to be there to tell you can't do this, so feel free. But in competition, if you're willing to take the penalty, go for it. So you have to be fast once you put your foot in. Push, put your toes in. The second I put my toes in, I'm going to do a big kick and recover my guard, just like that. It's very effective when you do it, but you just have to make sure that you don't hang out there. If I put my foot in and just chill here like this, I'm going to get a penalty, and the guy's going to take my foot out, so you have to be quick. Lift, create enough space so you don't have to be hyper flexible. You just have to be able to bring your foot to, like, in front of your other knee, basically, is the flexibility required. Push, lift, and then I kick But I don't kick this way. I don't kick like we're doing the normal extension. I kick away with that top leg so that my body unravels this way. If you try and do it the other way, he can still stick you because of just the nature of the movement. If I go here and I try and extend, he can still stick me. But if I go this way, I can really free my body and pull my foot out a lot of times before a ref can even know this. Or your opponent. So, it's not illegal. I mean, technically it's illegal, but you're not going to get DQ'd for it. It's just going to be a penalty. So I say it's fair game. Now I'm going to show you how to deal with someone who has a very strong toreando, who is grabbing both your pants and they have super strong stiff arms and you're not able to just do a normal guard recovery motion. Sometimes you need to utilize a grip break, and there's a very easy one that can help you retain your guard and get back to your lapel guard if needed. So if we're in the intermediary position and for some reason we weren't able to keep the foot on the lapel and he starts to get toreando grips, go ahead and get strong toreando grips. Now this works. Some people like to grab inside the knee here, or some people like to curl inside the cuff of the pants itself. The cuff of the pants is it's stronger in the sense the grip is harder to break, but gripping on the inside of the knee is a little stronger functionally because it stops my overhead recovery motion a little easier. Because if he goes on the inside of my pants, usually I can weave my foot in front a little bit easier because you can't really block with the elbow. So depending on which one they're doing changes a very small amount, but the grip break still functions the same. So I can still have the lapel when I'm doing this. Usually when someone's toreandoing, I want to try and put my foot in their bicep or arm so that they're not able to pin my feet down, right? But we still need to address this hand because I'm not able to get to my lapel guards if he's holding this hand the whole time. I can't set up my worm, I can't set up my squid. So we're going to address this, and it's super simple. I'm just going to grab his sleeve with my own hand. Now, we have to take advantage of the weakness of the human hand when it's gripping. Is the grip is strong when you pull into the fingers where the hook is made, but it's weak when you pull away through the open space here, like this. So if I just try and kick my grip like this, or pull it or push it off, it's going to be strong. So I'm going to change the angle by pulling his fist towards me and kicking my leg down towards his knee. So what that does is it forces my material of my gi downwards through the opening of his fingers rather than trying to do the opposite, which would be trying to push it off this way. So I pull instead of push, which most grip breaks require a pushing motion to break. This one is a pulling motion and a kick with my leg. So I don't kick it out necessarily because if I kick out, I don't have a ton of leverage to break the grip. So I have to kick down. So I like to turn my hips into him and bring my knee down, like almost like bringing my knee across his wrist, and then kick down as I pull up, like this. Okay? So it's gripping here. Don't kick out because you don't have a ton of leverage. Bring it in, knee across his wrist. My own hand is on top of my knee, and I kick down and punch yourself in the balls at the same time. It's right in there. Just kidding. Bring my knee and kick like this. Once I have that kick, I want to immediately go back to a comfortable position. Whether it's worm guard, which we could just set up right here, or squid guard, which we could set up right here, or back to an intermediary lapel position. The underfoot step, the cross step, or the spider hook to work for off balances. And that's that. Now I'm going to show you another retention movement that is going to help in situations where you find yourself floundering. This is the baby hooks and pancake philosophy. They go together because you can't have baby hooks without pancakes. You can't have pancakes without baby hooks. So, a baby hook, just for your visual understanding, is when someone achieves a side smash position on you. Let's turn this way. So if he starts side smashing me in any way, like this, a lot of people may think that their legs are no longer in play. They'll just leave them hanging out and try and start doing upper body stuff, get to their elbow and push and try and escape in that way. So I'm here in the side smash position, but my feet here can still maintain a lot of control. His goal, obviously, is just to step this leg out and pass my guard around my body here and eventually get to a full pass where my legs have zero impact on my recovery. So you actually have a surprising amount of control when you engage these feet as hooks like this. If I put my feet like this as a hook, it's pretty hard for him to just step his leg out. He has to lift his leg pretty high to escape both hooks. He may be able to pop one foot out or the other, but I can actually maintain a lot of hookage here and retain my guard for a long amount of time. Now, there's 3 configurations. The double under with the feet here, or you can have 1 foot over the top and be hooking with the bottom foot. What this does is it puts pressure on the top of his knee, so it's very hard for him to lift his leg up and free from that bottom hook. Or the opposite case, where I have my top foot hooked and my bottom foot over the top to keep his leg in control. Now, that's the baby hooks. The pancake philosophy is that I'm trying to pancake my body flat, like this, in an effort to not let him stick my back flat to the mat. Because if I stay on my side, I have only so much recovery options. I can only turn into him. If I can't, I could potentially turn possibly. If not, I just get stuck, right? So by pancaking in your philosophy of guard recovery, it gives you 2 options. I can turn into him if I manage to get a strong baby hook enough to recover my guard, or because I'm already flat, I have the option to turtle or roll all the way through to the other side. So a turtle would just be me going to my knees to avoid the pass, and then and then attempting to escape in another way from the turtle position. The other option that pancake gives you is I can roll all the way through. So if he goes to continue to try and pass my guard, I can roll all the way through and potentially get back to my guard to the other side. So these are almost like scramble movements, but what's unique about them and why it's important to lapel guard is that the pancake philosophy works with a lapel in hand. So if I'm playing lapel guard and we end up in a situation where our guard is getting smashed, I can keep the lapel in play here. This actually serves a pretty strong control because of the functionality of the lapel, how it goes around his hip, right? So I'm pulling here, keeping his hips to this side, even if it's just a little bit, it helps. So while I'm digging for baby hooks, I may even have an opportunity to get my knee into the lapel and recover with spider pressure here. The other option is I have my feet engaged in baby hooks and I'm pancaking here, like this. As he starts to continue passing around, I keep this arm extended strong as a mode of control around his hips, and I can actually use that to face him because I have a slight advantage in this scramble. He's going to be trying to circle to my back, and I'm going to be trying to circle to his, but having the lapel tight around his hips can slow him down just enough that in this motion of recovery, I can move just fast enough to turn and face him. And notice how I duck my head underneath. That's pretty important when you're doing the pancake recovery. Is I'm here, get into pancake position, always engaging my baby hook so he doesn't have a free pass. And then as I get up to my knees, watch my head, it ducks underneath his whole body and out to the other side to recover. And then we pull guard again. You don't even need to stand up. You can just immediately pull guard. So one thing to think about with your baby hooks too, come on this side for me so they can see my feet. My baby hooks are engaged even as I'm pancaking. Pancaking can be on the sleeve as well. But as I'm pancaking, my baby hooks are looking to get all the way to the other side of his body as well. All the way through. I'm continuing to fish these hooks, trying to sneak them out in ways that he may not expect, so that I can, when I extend them, puts my body into a position where I'm back in more of a conventional guard. So you're engaged with your feet, your hands, and you're looking for stretch opportunities to get up, turn all the way through, or recover back to your guard. Another position that can really muck up your lapel guard progression is the double unders. Double unders and both knees on the ground are probably 2 of the most efficient ways at stopping me or anyone who's a worm guard, squid guard player from getting to the finalized positions and then ultimately being able to take the back with ease. So it's very important to know how to escape a lot of these positions you're going to find yourselves in where people are trying to hold you so they don't have to deal with your incredibly frightening lapel guard knowledge. So we're going to be using some lapel-based tricks and some non-lapel-based tricks to escape from the double unders, just to even further build your understanding of the pre-worm guard, pre-squid guard lapel game. So people will dive into double unders sometimes, even when you have a full lapel grip first. So I actually go standing. So if I have the lapel grips, people will literally go underneath and just force you here even as you have the lapel. So we're going to cover just a few things. The first one's super simple, and it's another pseudo-legal move, but I think it's important everyone knows it. And that is doing the same concept as we did before with the foot in the collar here to escape from north-south. I'm actually just going to let go of the lapel and put both hands behind his back and try and push away. And now as this happens, he's going to be pushing into me, and I'm just going to put my heel on the inside like this to extend him up and off of me with one strong kick. And it's one of those things where once you kick him, he's off of you and you take your foot out. No harm, no foul. So you just have to be quick with it. So it's one of those things, I'm here. The second I get it, once I put my foot in, I'm just kicking with one foot. If I need more leverage, I'll just put my other foot on top of my foot so I have a double strike, and then you just swiftly snap his neck. Just kidding. But you want to make sure you just get one strong push to clear his double unders and then recover back to whatever guard you were playing. Now, when I'm here, there are some things that are similar to that. If you are a super by-the-book straight-edge grappler and you don't want to do anything that's even mildly illegal. So you don't want to put your foot in the collar, let's say. You can just engage with his lapel itself. If you have it underneath his armpit like this, you're just going to do a cross foot grip. This is perfectly legal. If you bring it up behind his back, it's the exact same concept. You can use both feet, but instead of pushing him straight up, it's going to sort of lift a shoulder, and you have to actually get wrist control and then recover in a little more traditional way. It doesn't just launch him away as easily. So you can do that as well. They're both the same thing here. Just make sure you don't give yourself too much slack, because if you give too much slack, it's not as strong. You want to be super tight up in that armpit and extend him away, and then get your grips back. You can even maintain the lapel grip the whole time and get back to your positions. Ultimately, trying to go to squid or one of the worm guard attacks, which we are coming to shortly. Don't worry.
4 more hours, bro.
Continuing from the double under, we're going to free ourselves from this prison of a guard pass in one more way. We're double undered here. This is what's called the overhook wrench to escape. So the problem with this situation is that most of the time the person is perfectly comfortable just to lay here. They're not really actively trying to pass your guard, because to pass from double unders takes an immense amount of strength, because he has to be lifting my entire body at my center of mass, which is around my hips, lifting and twisting me over. So if I'm defending at the same time and holding his head and trying to choke him and put my feet in his lapels, it's pretty tiring. So most of the time they just hold you here and you're just stuck and you're like, I'm trying to win the match and this guy's just holding me. So we need to be super good at escaping this position. Similar to being proficient at 50-50, you need to know how to escape 50-50 as well. What I'm going to do, I'm going to bring my opposite side hand. So I'm going to be overhooking with my right hand. I bring my opposite side hand to his ear, and I'm going to be catching my wrist behind his ear and jaw just to create space. At the same time, I'm going to be planting my foot on his hip and trying to elevate my hips to cut an angle slightly, like this. What this does is it starts to put pressure on his shoulder by turning him here. Now he's going to be trying to drive me straight again. He's going to keep trying to square up with me, so I have to continuously try and be shrimping as we move around dynamically in the position. As we do this little dance, I'm trying to get my right arm, this free arm here, hand opposite his the hand on his neck, over into an overhook position. Here. So I'm here, my hands on the inside, foot is planted to help me lift my hip, and I'm trying to reach to his armpit. Here. As I reach to his armpit, I'm doing a similar motion to that grip break we did on the Tornado pass earlier. I'm extending my leg like this. It's almost like an arm drag. The deeper I can get it, the better. If I can get my elbow all the way up to his armpit, it's really strong. So you want to dig this in super deep, and I'm actually grabbing my own belt or one of my lapels here. From this position, if he tries to hang on, it actually puts a ton of pressure on his shoulder, almost like an Americana if he continues holding on to my gi. So I have the whole power of my back pulling, my leg kicking, and my arm pulling as well to straighten his arm. What's nice about this is I end up trapping his arm in between my legs. And from here I can just continue driving and coming up to either escape the position or take his back. You ideally want to treat it like an arm drag and come up on top. But a lot of times once you start putting pressure here and I start to break the grip, he'll actually back out and want to just reset the position instead of letting me have his arm trapped. And you'll want to try and recover your guard in another way. So just focus on getting that arm super deep through and creating space with the left hand on his face. If you relax that hand too much, he's going to keep driving his head in and keep turning you this way off of your hip. So you have to drive him away so that your hips are able to lift it into the air to get that grip super tight and then extend.
Hey Keenan, can you do that last move with an underhook?
Well, Miha, I'm glad you asked. You can actually do the exact same move with an
Wow.
underhook instead. I'll show you now. So, some people have a hard time clearing their hips enough to get a deep overhook. Perhaps they feel like their arms are too short or they just don't have the leverage. In these situations, you can use an underhook instead. Now, I'm going to take the same arm that I was going over with, and I'm going to shoot it underneath his arm here to the armpit. So, I create a little bit of space, but in the same way by pushing at the neck with my free hand. And I'm going to slide my arm through here. Now, there is a little bit of a variation here that makes this super effective. A lot of people try and force it like this at the arm, but you're not actually getting very much torque because I'm just driving directly into his armpit instead of at the elbow. And I want to have some sort of leverage lower on the arm so I can create discomfort in his shoulder. So if I just wrench here, if he's strong, he can hang on. But there's a little detail you can do. We got to turn back so they can see. This little detail here is going to make a world of difference. I'm going to use the hand that's by his ear and his shoulder and neck, and I'm going to bring my leg over the top of his head. Okay? So this does two things. It puts pressure on his neck in an awkward angle to the side, and actually changes my angle so I can pull closer to his elbow. So the more he retains his grip here, it's actually more like a Kimura grip now. This wrench is very powerful. Now from here, I just slide my arm free. You can finish a traditional judo style arm lock here, or just pass it completely and start trying to escape the position, either taking the back or recovering. So one more time. I'm here, put my hand to the neck and collar, dig my arm under. Now, the detail that people forget is bringing the leg over the head. So I actually drive his face away, bring my leg over his head, and then instead of driving straight towards me with my underhook, I start sliding my knee away and into the elbow. If he insists on keeping his arm here, it's actually just going to Kimura lock him and put pressure on his shoulder. But most people's legs are going to be strong enough to just slide right by. In which case I can attack some sort of arm lock triangle omoplata situation or just get back to my guard. One of the last few details we're going to be covering from the double unders as an escape is what to do when you get fully stacked. I'm showing double unders in specifically because this is a situation where when you're attacking squid guard or any sort of lapel plata motion, people love to dig to double unders and you get stuck there with your own lapel in your hand sometimes and you feel like hanging onto the lapel can just be holding you there even tighter. So I'm going to show you one bailout maneuver that can sort of reset everything if things are really, really bad. So if I'm being stacked here like this, one of the most common ways for people to finish the pass is to drive their arm across and catch the cross collar here like this. If you get to this position, things are pretty much over for you, even if I have the lapel in like a squid guard position. So what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to go with the flow instead of fighting against it here. So you can see his knee is up. This is proper form by Miha. He puts his knee into my hip. This stops me from being able to turn my hips this way to defend. If he doesn't put that knee there, I can sort of escape my hips through. So he's pinning my hips so I don't have any rotational recovery to this side. Okay? But in the same action of him doing this, he's left me one last back door of freedom, and that is to underhook the leg here like this. I'm going to underhook the leg, and at the same time I'm going to swim my free hand underneath his collar grip and connect like this here. Now, because his knee is on my chest, we actually enter into a position that's may look familiar to you, which is the X guard attack we did earlier, from almost like the squid guard or the foot under off balance in the intermediary guard section. So I get to this position. Now what I do from here is I pull it across my body like this. Okay? This is almost like funk rolling in wrestling. I get up to my elbow here, and I've effectively stopped him from doing any sort of double underpass at this point. You're not out of the woods yet, though, because he may be able to start latching up his legs onto the back of my head and doing reverse triangles and things like that. So I want to maintain control of his ankle. As I maintain control of his ankle, I get up to my knees here. I'm still controlling his ankle so he can't get any reverse triangle options. And then I switch my hands from my right hand on his ankle to my left hand, and I bring my arm over to his hip. From here, I free my leg, and we start attacking the back. However you want to finish it from there. So a lifelike situation of this would be me attempting to do the off balance here, and he sticks me like this. And I'm like, oh shoot, he stuck me. I'm going to connect my hands, but don't make the mistake of connecting them over his arm. Connect underneath the arm. And then don't try and push him away. Hot dog roll through. As his leg comes over the top of you, get control of the ankle, get up to your elbow, and then lift him and your hips up at the same time. Here. And then turn to face him and continue attacking.